An Affair to Remember is pretty decent. This is the second episode of the Tortellis, and this is directed by Greg Antonacci, and there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts, and I certainly had fun with this one. It starts off with Charlotte in the garage with her boyfriend. He's played by Michael Laurance. He's called Pete, and she then goes indoors. I like the fact that her kid was in the back of the car, that she clearly went on a date with him and took her child along. I thought, not that I'm saying everybody should take their children on dates, but I like the fact that he was involved in spending time with Pete and hopefully getting along with Pete. We don't really know too much about the child's response to that, but I rather liked that. And she then goes indoors and everybody's talking about him, and we find out that he comes from Flamingo Drive, which is apparently a fancy neighbourhood. And things seem to be going really well. And then a little while later, Nick and Loretta are busy doing work. Nick is working on the TV set with Anthony, and Loretta's folding laundry with Annie. And unfortunately, we find out that Nick and Loretta saw Pete at the movie theatre with somebody else. And they decide they're not going to tell Charlotte, because Loretta doesn't want to hurt her sister, and Nick wants them to move in with Pete in the big house in Flamingo Drive. However, as soon as Loretta says she'll keep the secret forever, Charlotte comes in and Loretta tells her that Pete is cheating on her. And Nick tries to come up with an explanation that there are not enough men in the world for every woman, and that women have to take turns. And he then goes on to this metaphor about crops. And honestly, I think he lost it a little bit, but it was pretty entertaining. Illogical, but also funny. And Loretta comes up with an idea that might not be the best, but she suggests making Pete jealous. And Charlotte realizes that that's her best option, apparently. And she's planning on making it look like she's had a romantic dinner with somebody she knows called Bob. Unfortunately, Bob phones her and says that he's unable to make it last minute. What is she going to do? Well, Nick offers his services. He's going to pretend to be a potential romantic love interest so that Pete will get jealous. But Charlotte decides she's not that desperate, and she's just going to tell Pete the truth. And it seems like that's what's going to happen. And I like the unpredictability of this, because Pete then comes over, and before Charlotte has a chance to even tell him anything, Nick comes into the room and starts speaking with a British accent, because why wouldn't he? And obviously there is a flaw in this plan, because if this jealousy worked, which is what their intention is, and Pete ended up dating Charlotte in the long term, how would Nick explain himself when they all moved into Flamingo Drive, which is his motivation? How would he explain his other name and his actual accent and the fact that he's married to Loretta? So I don't necessarily think he thought it through very much, but nevertheless, this is what he's decided to do, and really great performance, but not necessarily convincing. And Charlotte and Pete end up going to dinner and everything seems to be really happy for them. And then Loretta's really happy because she likes Nick talking in English, as she puts it. And she gets tingly toes whenever he speaks with this British accent, and he says steak and kidney pie, because what's sexier than that? And it was a nice light-hearted way to end the episode. I really enjoyed it. I thought Nick in particular was great. I don't agree with his actions or motivations, but I found his performance, or at least Dan Hedaya's performance, to be very entertaining. And honestly, everybody was really great. No complaints at all. Definitely one that I really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to watching the next episode. Actually, I'm very much looking forward to watching the next episode, because we have two characters who are appearing in it, and I am very, very excited. But I'll say no more than that for now until we get there. But for now, I'm pleased to say that An Affair to Remember was a really great episode, and I'm looking forward to watching more of the Tortellis.